Hello all, my name is Ankush Agnihotri. Welcome back again on the Angular journey. This is the part 5 of it. If you haven't watched the previous lecture, I suggest you to see that first. Link is in description box. So let's start today. In the yesterday lecture, we will see how we can create our Angular application using the Angular CLI. So with the single command, so the command is ng space new space your application name. Now before we start, let's try to understand our application architect that we want to be build. Basically we want to build a user management system. Okay, so we have the index.html page, then our startup app component, and from there we can call our other components from the navigation menu one by one, like the welcome component that we are going to be built in today. That is our first component, and then the user list component, then the user detail, then the add user component, then update user component, and the rating component, that is the nested component that is shared between the two major components, that is the user list component and the user detail components. All the components will get the data from the user service that highlighted in the red. Basically, as you know, these Angular components will retrieve the data from the backend using the user service, and component will give us the desired result that we want to see on the UI. So let's start it. How we can create a component using the Angular CLI? That is straightforward. We will use the command ng space g space c, then space your component name. For example, we want to build a welcome component, then this is the command ng space g space c, then space, then your component name, that is the welcome. Okay, once you hit this command, then you will see these four files will automatically generated with the name welcome.component.html, then welcome.component.spec.ts, third one is the welcome.component.ts, and another is the welcome.component.css. Now welcome.component.html is your UI part. It consists of all the HTML that you want to render it. Next, spec.ts is your file that is used for the unit testing. Next is the welcome.component.ts file. This consists your whole logic, and component.css will contain your style sheet. Another thing that we will notice when we run the command, this welcome component will automatically declared in your app module. Since you know app module is the brain of the application, so how many component we will declare throughout the course, we have to be registered that component in the app module. Only then we are able to access that. Basically we are injecting or declaring those component in the app module. So next we can see how the component will look like. We will divide the component into the three parts. First is the import section. We have to be import from the node modules whatever we need it. In this case, whenever we are going to be create a dummy component, you can see the import component will be imported from the Angular core library. Then you have a metadata and the template section. Then you have a class section. Don't worry, we will discuss that in a bit moment. So first go through with the class. When you see, the class is first decorated with the export keyword so that we can use it throughout our application. Then we have a class keyword, then your component name that is used throughout the course, and then it's implementing the onIt method. It is basically a load method, you can say, in which we have to be bind data. Next is we are declaring one property in that particular component with the name page title. Then we have to be declare the data type of that particular property. Then we have to be pass the default value of it. Then let's discuss about the decorators. Basically, what are decorators? Decorator are the function that adds metadata to your class, to its member, and to its method argument. Basically, decorator is a JavaScript language feature that is implemented inside the TypeScript. A scope of decorator is basically limited to its feature on which we have decorated it. In Angular we will decorate the class with the @ symbol, for example @ component, right? So let's discuss about now the metadata. Basically, as you can see, when the component is generated, we have to be decorate that component with the @component keyword. Then inside that we have further options. The first option is the selector. This is basically the directive name that we have to be used in the HTML. Then you have a template URL. In this we will simply give the path of our HTML file, or we can simply add a HTML over here also. Then the style URL, this is an array. We can pass multiple files also, or we can pass a single file also. Then if we see what are the summary of the component that we see throughout the lecture is what is component, how we can create it, we will discuss about the metadata and the decorator, how we can import the required files, and lastly we have to be inject that component into the app module, right? There are different ways of defining the component templates. First is the link template, in which we have to be mention the template path, and second is the inline template, where we are simply providing the HTML in a single line between the double quotes. Last is the between the backticks. This is the Acme script 2015 way of styling, giving the HTML. In this we can define our multi-line HTML. Fine. So let's switch to the Visual Studio to perform this code. Open your Visual Studio Code. If you recall what is the command is your ng space g, then your component name. So ng space g space c space your component name, welcome. I hit enter. Now it asking about the analytics, just say no. Now you can see it will create a 3 files for you, 4 files basically, sorry. welcome.component.html, spec file, component file, and the CSS file. If you expand your app folder, here you have a folder named as welcome. In this welcome folder, if you simply open this first file, you will see the style sheet, then HTML file, spec file for testing, and your component file. If I zoom out this screen a bit, now it's good. So in the component file, these are the metadata, this is your class, and this is your import section. So if I have to do something, if we carefully watch the HTML of it, now the HTML simply says welcome works, right? Now if I want to be call this template, how can I call this? Since our entry point is index.html, in this we are calling your app component that has a app root as a selector, right? Over here. Now I want to be call the welcome component that we just created. So what I have to do, I have to be copy this selector, place it in your index.html tag, now simply type the command npm start. Take couple of seconds to build the code. You can see it is live on the localhost 42 port number. Copy that. Now you can see we are getting the 2 errors right now. They are saying app root didn't match any element. So let's check where we are calling this app root. Copy this root tag. The app.module. You are simply injecting the starting component as a app component. So what you need to do is copy this and tell the app module this is our welcome, or you can say the startup component that we want to see. Just save, then it will be automatically compiled and refresh on the browser. Now you can see, you are able to see the welcome message, right? Now let's do some more work in the component. So let's define one property over here that is named as page title, that is of string type, whose default value is welcome to knowledge sharing Angular tutorials. Fine. Now we copy this property, go to our HTML, we will simply define over here. I hit save, it automatically compiled and browser is automatically refreshed. You are able to see the your welcome message. Now this is the steps how we can create our component using the Angular CLI. And what is our checklist? Simply, firstly, what we will do, we will simply write the command, then a folder with the 4 files will generated automatically, and then you have to be checked whether the generated component is registered in the app module or not, basically over here, right? So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. See you in the next lecture. Please subscribe the channel if you haven't subscribed it yet, and also press the bell icon to get the notification. Thanks.